You ready? Ready. Ready. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Smithtown Planning Board is now in session. United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We thank you.
Jim.
Lays?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The first item on the agenda, the Planning Department recommends the following items for adjournment as we have insufficient information to act upon them. Part 1, Item 1, number 2011-01, All Seasons Motor Lodge. Item 3, number 2010-06, KVC Holdings. Item 4, number 2009-05, FB4 Realty. Part 2, Item 8, number 1053A, Berg Estates. Item 9, number 911A, Glen Hill Northern. Part 3, Item 10, number TC11-01, T-Mobile Northeast. Part 4, Item 11, the 280A application of Olivia Estates. Mr. Chairman, these are the items the Planning Department recommends for adjournment.
Is there anybody here to be heard on those items to be adjourned? Hearing nothing, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the items read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda under Part 1, Item 2, number 2011-04, Indian Head Family. Mr. Chairman, this was an application that was brought before the board on the April 20th, 2011 Planning Board meeting. It was adjourned at that time, I believe pending for an on-site inspection by the board. We have brought it back. We do have a recommendation if the board would like me to read it to them. I'd like to give you the evaluation from the Planning Department before the resolution. Advantages of this application would be approval will encourage development of smaller units, which will tend to have lower rents or cooperative sale price and operating costs than larger units, and these lower costs should be retained over the life of the unit to provide long-term affordability. Disadvantage of approval will permit a use that may generate additional traffic circulation concerns at the site. The Planning Department recommends approval of this petition and offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. The Planning Board recommends that the Town Board approve the petition of Indian Head Family, LLC, for a change of zone for the property located on the west side of Indian Head Road, 1,469 feet south of Ellen Place in Kings Park, Suffolk County Tax Map number 41-1-11.1, from R6 Townhouse Dwelling to RMGA Garden Apartment with the following conditions. A, approval of the petition does not imply approval of a specific yield or site plan. B, construction on slopes in excess of 10% shall only be permitted if sufficient stabilization measures and erosion control practices are employed to mitigate any negative environmental impacts as determined by the Board of Site Plan Review. C, the driveway giving access onto Indian Head Road shall be graded to provide safe access and to avoid congestion on Indian Head Road as determined by the Board of Site Plan Review. D, the final site plan shall provide for a bus shelter and or bus turnout as determined by the Board of Site Plan Review. E, the applicant shall consult with the Suffolk County Department of Health Services and Suffolk County Department of Public Works to investigate connections to existing treatment facilities or options for on-site facility capacity expansion for future connections. Mr. Chairman, this is the Planning Department's recommendation for Indian Head Family, LLC, number 2011-04.
We thank you. Is there anybody here representing the applicant? No one here representing the applicant. Has he been notified?
Yes.
He was? All right, as long as there's people here, is there anybody here that wants to be heard on this application? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board? Do you want to approve this, or you want to reschedule it?
Well, I would just ask if anybody from the planning department knows whether or not the applicant or their representative has been made aware of these conditions and whether they're in agreement with them.
Yes, they've been made aware of these.
And who
Are
is
they
it-
in agreement?
Yes.
And who is it that was spoken to?
Vincent Pizzulli, he's the applicant.
attorney?
The attorney, yes.
And you could represent that he's been advised of these conditions and he's in agreement with them?
Yes.
All right, I don't have a
Okay.
problem then.
Members of the board, any other questions? A motion to accept the recommendations of the planning department.
In the matter of Indian Head Family LLC, Kings Park, motion to adopt the resolution as read, subject to the conditions stated by the planning department.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
All righty. Okay. Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda under Part 2, Item 5, number 1098, Parnell Estates. We do have copies of the filed maps for all of the board members, if you need them at the end of the meeting for the on-site inspection. The applicant requests to waive the requirement of installing sidewalks on Plymouth Boulevard within the subdivision known as Parnell Estates number 1098. The board approved the final plat of Parnell Estates number 1098 on August 5, 2005. This application was approved for a two-lot subdivision with one existing home on Plymouth Boulevard and one proposed home fronting on Parnell Drive. At that time, the board approved a performance bond estimate requiring the applicant to install a total of 399 feet of sidewalks, 142 feet of sidewalk on Parnell Drive, 42 feet of sidewalk on the radius of Parnell Drive and Plymouth Boulevard, and 185 feet of sidewalk on Plymouth Boulevard. The applicant has installed the sidewalks on Parnell Drive and the radius of both streets, and is requesting a waiver of the requirement to install the 185 feet of sidewalks on Plymouth Boulevard. The Engineering, Highway, and Traffic Safety Departments have no objection to the waiver request. The Planning Department conducted a field inspection of sidewalks in the vicinity of this subdivision and determined that there are no existing sidewalks on Plymouth Boulevard in the immediate area. Therefore, the Planning Department does not object to the applicant's request. The Planning Department recommends the board make this application the subject of an on-site inspection. Mr. Chairman, this is the Planning Department's recommendation for Parnell Estates number 1098.
Is there anybody here representing the applicant?
Broadway, Massapequa. I'm the holder of the bond on this subdivision, Kenealy. And from the corner of Plymouth Drive going south, about 2,000 feet to the firehouse, there are no sidewalks on both sides of the street. On the same side of Parnell, going east on the south side of the street, there are no sidewalks, and a new subdivision, Greenbelt Court, has no sidewalks, which is on Plymouth and by the firehouse. So I make this, I would like you to approve the application for a waiver.
Okay. Members of the board, any questions on this recommendation? None? Motion there to do an on-site inspection.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion in regards to Parnell Estates, number 1098, that we have an on-site inspection on the mentioned property.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Thank you.
We thank you. Oh,
Yes.
I didn't know that you were here to speak on that. Okay, I apologize. Be my guest, yes, sir. Just give your name and address.
My name is Nick Polchinski, Polchynsky. I live at 67 Plymouth Boulevard. For the last 4 years, I've been in contact with, let's see, New York Senator John Flanagan, Town Councilman Ed Wareham, Department of Parks Supervisor Chuck Barrett, Department of Highway Supervisor Glenn Jorgensen. And they're reviewing this right now because it's sporadic sidewalks. There are sidewalks on Plymouth Boulevard. On the east side, they come up from Jericho Turnpike to House 45 and just stop. On the west side, they come up to Asbury Drive and stop there. From that point to Parnell Drive, There's sidewalks everywhere. I got Mr. Jorgensen coming to my house tomorrow, the head of the highway department, to do an on-site review. Like I said, I've been working with Councilman Ed Wareham, and pretty much they're gonna push to get these sporadic sidewalks corrected. I asked that, it's an unsafe condition. The house right next to House 70, which is what the developer once waived, the 85 feet of sidewalk, House 66 has a handicapped child there. I petitioned the town for a handicap sign. The mother has to wheel the child in the street. There are no sidewalks. It's a safety issue. Plymouth Boulevard is a highly, it's a thoroughfare for, from the 495 to 25A. There's about 4 or 5 schools off of Plymouth. There's tremendous amount of bus traffic. There's a blind man with a seeing eye dog that lives on the part of Plymouth Boulevard that has sidewalks. Now, he usually walks down the Jericho Turnpike and goes, he tried walking up Plymouth Boulevard, and the dog went around a pole, because the dog only knows to walk on sidewalks. So that whole area, and it's only about 14 houses that are affected. I have pictures, I've signed petitions from almost everyone affected here. Signed this just last night, their names and their addresses.
Would you give that to Mr. DeRubis, please?
Sure, just ask for copies.
Mr. DeRubis, yes, he's the planning director.
Those copies for him to keep? Okay.
Yeah, if I can get copies. Now, as far as I talked to the Mitchell Crowley, the safety director, traffic safety director, about the handicap sign and the dangerous condition on Plymouth Boulevard. And he's still in the process. I don't know why he would approve this or have no objection, because he and Ed Wareham are still in process of getting a handicap sign installed there. And they want to look into also, you know, the extreme dangerous condition for all the families have to walk, if they want to see the neighbor or just take a walk, you have to walk in the street. It's a highly trafficked area. It's very dangerous. I have some pictures to even show you. It's a little, you know, even the estimate to do the sidewalks, Ed Wareham told me it was about a little over 100,000. So it's not much money. It's just a dangerous condition. I've been petitioning and writing all these officials since 2007, and we're finally making headway. And I just asked the board to wait on this. Let's see what Mr. Jorgensen comes up with. Let's see what all these people, Ed Wareham, the planning board, and you know, to take this in consideration. That for the last 4 years we've been trying to get sidewalks on this part of Plymouth Boulevard. I'm disabled myself. Like I said, I witness time and time again of this woman. Her mother lives diagonally across the street from her, wheeling the kid in the street. And Plymouth has a very steep angle when you leave Parnell. So when the cars come, you can't see anything. And they come right down on her, and they're blowing their horn, and they're yelling at her, "Why don't you get on the sidewalk?" There is no sidewalk. And they're coming head on to her. And she's scared now to even walk, take the kid to her grandmother. He has cerebral palsy. This has been an ongoing issue for years.
Well, you understand that we're going to do an on-site inspection,
Okay.
and the responsibility
want-
of the applicant is not as big as what you're talking
No,
about.
no, not at all.
But-
I'm just
But
saying.
we'll take a look at it, and then we'll come back there for a decision.
Yeah, I'm just trying to ask to buy a
Yes.
little time to the town could, you know, when the highway department who's going to take over looking at this, you know, after 4 years, that, you know, the board doesn't make a decision, you know, without, well, you'll inspect it, but it doesn't make a decision until at least the highway, Glenn Jorgensen gets back to you, or Ed Wareham, or, you know, Chuck Barrett, or one of those.
See, what you're saying is that other than what's before us, as far as the sidewalks with this particular subdivision, there's other sidewalk issues in the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a little, there's sporadic sidewalks. There are sidewalks on Plymouth Boulevard. When you go north of Parnell, sidewalks everywhere. The whole Plymouth Hills has sidewalks. I can show you a picture on the map. There's only about 14 houses that don't have sidewalks.
In our memo, it says there are no existing sidewalks on Plymouth Boulevard in the immediate area. Do you agree with that, or? I mean, we'll go take a look at it, but
It's a little misleading because they're sporadic sidewalks. They come up from Jericho Turnpike, like I said, they come up to Asbury. Asbury and Parnell,
Well,
they're
When you
not
say
that far.
sporadic sidewalks, you mean there are some places where there are sidewalks and some
Yeah,
places
they
where there
come up
aren't?
from Jericho Turnpike to house number 45. From house 45 to 71, there's no sidewalks. Everywhere else from the rest of the whole town, I mean, the whole Plymouth Hills has it, sidewalks.
That's why
we'll be
we're gonna
doing
go
it
out there
on
and
site.
take a look at it.
We'll be doing it on site of this particular subdivision.
I just ask that you give it consideration, that the town is looking into this and, just.
Well, I see that you've got other people involved.
Right.
And there is
And I
a
just-
sidewalk fund that might be helpful in doing sidewalks, besides the applicant that we're going to review, okay?
Right.
But we'll definitely review it, and then we'll get some kind of an answer back there to see if we can help you.
Right. I'm just trying to bring the two of you together, I mean, this is, as one, as,
It is a busy street, I know. It goes to the
Yeah.
school. They got the
it's
school, the
tremendous
two
amount of
schools up
traffic
there and everything.
There's just asphalt curbs, like I said, I've been doing this since 2007, getting petitions and trying. I just ask for time let's see what the highway department comes up with, because they're the ones that build the sidewalks now.
Okay.
Because before it went to budget, it went to the parks, and now it's at highway, so I just want to make you guys, let everyone be informed of what's going on as far as this area,
Okay,
okay?
thank you. Is there anybody else that was part of that before we go ahead there with the on-site? All right, we thank you. Ready?
Yeah, they already did the resolution, okay. Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda under Part 2, Item 6, number 1099, Glansman Plat. Mr. Chairman, there was a request by the applicant made at the last Planning Board meeting on June 1st for a waiver of sidewalks. The board had adjourned the request for performing an on-site. I believe that the board has completed their on-site inspection of the subdivision, and we have a recommendation for the board to read on the record. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves the request of Dina Olson to waive the requirement for the installation of 172 feet of linear sidewalks on Wexford Court and Jefferson Avenue within the subdivision known as Glansman Plat, number 1099. Mr. Chairman, that is the Planning Department's recommendation for Glansman Plat, number 1099.
Anybody here representing the applicant?
And she's not here.
I think I saw the lady in the back here before. No? All right. Anybody else wants to speak on this? A motion.
Mr. Chairman, in the matter of Glansman Plat, number 1099, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
7, case number 922, Sesame Estates in Kings Park. Mr. Chairman, we are prepared this evening to make a final recommendation. However, prior to this evening's meeting, I had a discussion with council, and we both concurred to recommend adjournment of this particular matter. The reason why we are making a recommendation for adjournment, the Planning Department is not changing its request. However, there are other ramifications with regard to this application which the applicant may not be aware of, which may alter whether or not the applicant wishes to proceed at all with this particular application. Specifically, there are new laws in effect under New York State called the Long Island Workforce Housing Act. And we believe, both counsel and myself, that if the applicant wishes to proceed with this application in any form, such as even a variance before the Board of Appeals, that they come under the ramifications of this act. And the applicant may wish to explore that issue before we proceed with this particular matter. So therefore, I'm requesting that the board adjourn this matter so that the applicant can have some time to examine this and then bring it back before the board based upon the applicant's assessment of how he wishes to proceed.
Frank, outside of that, the application as it stands now, it was 2 sections to the subdivision?
That's correct.
And this only relates to section 2?
No, it relates to the entire subdivision because the yield was placed on the entire subdivision, and then we transferred density from one part of this area, which would be in section 2, to section 1.
But section 1 is built,
That's
and
correct.
section 2 is not built?
That's correct.
And if it was going to be built the way that it's currently proposed, where is that going to be done in relation to that old house that's there? That was a Smith house, or?
Yeah, the house is going to remain in place, and there are 2 more lots that are permissible in that particular area, in section 3, or section 2, I'm
So
sorry.
they're going to they propose to build 2 more lots, 2 more
What
houses?
the applicant wants to do is increase the yield by 1 more, so there will be 4 lots in section 2.
And those will be along,
I believe
25A there?
Saber,
No.
or whatever the Sesame Street.
No, I think the additional lot was next, adjacent there to the house there, the existing house that's there, or an existing structure that's already there.
There was going to be 2 on the north and 2 on the south
What?
of the street that went through. I think the street was.
right, but in relation to
Saber
the
Drive.
Smith house that's sitting there, that's going to stay there?
Yes.
Yes, the
Yes.
Smith House.
And the new houses, if, again, as it's currently proposed, are going to be between there and 25A?
Yes.
That's going to be here.
All on the same side, or,
No, 2 on the north, 2 on the
Go
south.
okay.
But it would require therefore a through street, is that correct, in order to get the additional house that he's looking for?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I
You
wasn't.
need a through street there, he's had to break
In other
through.
words,
Right.
the original plan didn't call for a through street. Is that correct?
No, the original plan, that was a decision that was going to be left up to the board when we reached section 2. We left that as an open question, whether you want to terminate it or leave 2 cul-de-sacs or make it a through. We did not address that. In other words, we were
That was
silent.
not addressed at all.
Well, it was deliberately left silent because the board felt that we would address it at that time when they came in for subdivision. And, the board, because it is designed to go through, but maybe the board would want to waive it in this particular consideration. And this was discussed, whether to bring it through or not. And so the board said, we'll bring it
Well,
up.
the on-site that we were given when we first heard this a couple of, I forget when, a couple of weeks ago, a couple of meetings ago, it showed there 2 ways to do this application. One there was to do a cul-de-sac at each end, and the other one was to do a through street. Is that correct?
There possibly could be. We weren't looking at the design, we were just looking at the issue of the yield question. But you could design it with 2, and you could design it with a through street or not a through street.
But originally, the yield would have called for 3 more houses?
No,
Now
it
he
said
wants to do 4?
there's a total of 3 permitted in section 2. He wants to do 4 in section
Right.
2.
And that was the
originally the
approval,
3
right, Frank? It was, when this was originally before us, we approved 3.
That's correct.
And
And
they
now
want to
you're
put
asking
4.
for us to adjourn this because there may be some additional issues that may be coming up in regards to a condition of 4.
Well,
Is that
since
what you're
this
asking?
is a new approval, since
Right.
this
But-
is,
But what you're asking us for is to go for an adjournment pending some discussion on any ramifications or any or any type of issues that arise from a four lot subdivision.
I think what we're trying to say is we're allowing the applicant to examine the law,
The law you had mentioned.
reach his own conclusions as to what the implications may be, and then we'll decide whether or not we wish to proceed
Have you
with this.
discussed this with the,
No, I just discussed this with council just before the meeting, and council suggested, after reviewing the matter, that we should just adjourn it and allow the attorney just to examine the law and then discuss that with his client.
Okay.
Well, do we need to read this section of the, again, into the minutes?
No.
No.
What I'm suggesting right now is, well, you have that's going to be my recommendation, but I believe what should happen right now is we just should adjourn the matter because of these new items that we have discovered, and let the applicant examine them, and then he may wish to make a presentation before this board with regard to that or not. I don't know how he
Right.
wishes to proceed.
That's fine.
So,
Is there anyone here representing the applicant?
yes, you are, Mr.
I can't
Tramarko.
believe you didn't know about this new law.
I don't believe you contacted my office, Frank.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I guess it makes sense to look into it and to see what Frank is talking about.
If and how it applies, and
Yeah,
if it affects the
absolutely, so
application,
I don't have an objection.
so you don't have an objection to an adjournment?
I'm sorry?
You don't have any objection to an adjournment?
No.
All right. Any other questions by the board? Anybody in the audience that wishes to be heard on this? An adjournment is order for the application here of Sesame Estates, Section 2.
Second. Oh.
Is there a
I moved
motion?
I move that we adjourn the matter.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So ordered.
Other matters, we have on line 12, the Smithtown Fire District. This has been the subject, I think you're well aware of it. We've had 2 meetings on this. At this stage, I'm just giving a brief summary of what we have done since the last meeting. One of the questions that was asked by the board was to speak to the chairman of the Board of Appeals to see if or not this application could be processed in a quick manner. The chairwoman was out on vacation till just the 16th, and so the matter was referred to Anthony Tanzi, who is not officially the vice chair, but unofficially the person in charge of the board. He reviewed the matter and declined to advance the application. The reason he gave at that time was that there was no application that was submitted, so it would be unfair to other people, these are his words, to advance an application that wasn't submitted. I subsequently met at various times with both attorneys in this, and I'm under the impression.
Both attorneys, you mean the attorney for the applicant and also for the fire district?
Mr. Tramarko and Mr. Zolo.
Okay.
And am under the distinct impression, although they could correct me on this, that they are preparing an application on this particular matter. I also met with the chairwoman when she came back from vacation and expressed the sentiment of the board to see what they could do about this particular application and making an advancement of this. And her response was she would do that when she sees the application. That basically concludes what we have done for the last couple weeks.
Mr. Tramarko.
Mr. Chief, I knew this was going to happen, but anyway, what we've done is contact John Bongino, because in order to get on the Board of Appeals, you need a denial from the building department. And we did that, and we wrote him a letter, and I actually spoke to him today, and he said he was consulting with the town, I guess the deputy town attorney, Fred Calandrino, to see what he should do next. So, you know, I'm just a little bit concerned and upset, only because we really tried to conform after a long, bitter 2 meetings. We said, okay, we're going to do this. Now,
Mr. Chama-
John Bongino needs some guidance, I guess.
Mr.
and he's
Tramarko,
going-
if I could answer your question. We spent half the afternoon on this. I was away on meetings.
Could you wait till he finishes,
Okay.
Mr. DeRubis?
All right.
Go ahead.
So, again, I spoke to John Bongino today, and he was very accommodating. He said, look, I'm waiting for Fred Colandrino to get back to me to tell me what I should do. I thought that that secret memo that the board has, which I'm not allowed to look at and John Zolo's not allowed to look at, cleared up all of these.
Did you get a copy of that? Did you
No,
get a copy of that?
No, sir, and the town attorney, Yvonne Liefrick, said she would not allow me to see it. Well, I guess she said the same thing to John, because it was covered under attorney-client privilege. I don't think it is. It was a recommendation to, I think a representation to Frank, who then passed it on to the board. I wrote her a letter. I said, you know, it's not really attorney-client privilege anymore, since Frank gave it to the board. She disagreed, and she said, if you want it, now you got to appeal to the town board. We don't have that kind of time, and frankly, at this point, I don't care. As long as John gives me the denial, the application is, you know, is a 15-minute job, but I can't do it without the denial. So that's where we are.
Well, this is our third meeting, as you know. And I have a motion here tonight that I'm going to propose, and I'm going to give a copy to each member of the board for reading, and then I'll read it. This is a motion that I want to make, that the application of the Smithtown Fire Department, which provides for the public safety of the residents in the western section of Smithtown at the Plymouth Boulevard substation, as requested by letter dated 3/10/11 from Mr. John Zolo, attorney representing the fire district, and as requested by letter dated 5/5/11 from Mr. Vincent Tramarko, attorney representing Mr. and Mrs. Peter Machichi, be processed immediately. I ask for a second on that motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
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 So ordered. Go ahead with your application, Mr.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly in the board's motion, we just continue with the application before this planning board, which is now in the possession of the planning department, and it's been submitted, right, John? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay?
so we're not going to the Board of Zoning Appeals?
Not going to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Zola, do you have something?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Zola, I represent the Smithtown Fire District, and thank you for your motion of this evening. So now, as I understand it, the application will be processed and will be put on for a hearing date to present the application with respect to the TDRs for the benefit of the Smithtown Fire District. Is that, my understanding is correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'll be notified when the date will be?
You what?
I'll be notified when the hearing date is?
Well, if you want a copy of the motion, I can give you a copy of the
No,
motion.
when the hearing date is going to be? The hearing date.
Oh, well, it'll have to be scheduled there with Mr.
Okay.
DeRubis.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
If there's any problem with
Okay,
that,
Mr.
please let us,
DeMarco?
if there's any problem with
Acceptable?
that, please let us know.
That's fine, I'm just glad we have a decision, thank you.
Okay.
Just move it forward. Move it, you know, just move it forward.
Thank you, everybody.
Any other questions by the board? Any questions here by the people in the audience? We want to discuss the summer meeting schedule. How do you, Jim, we were talking a little bit. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
I think I'm gonna be away not during when we're scheduled to have a meeting, so whatever you want, however you wanted to do it.
What we did last year was the first meeting in July and the last meeting in August. Is that acceptable
That's
to
fine to
everybody?
me.
That's fine.
Yeah, I just have a, that's following me, but I...
You mean we held the first meeting in July and
And then
held the
the
last meeting in August?
Yes,
Right.
The what?
We held the first meeting in July and the last meeting in August.
correct.
We
Yes.
skipped the second meeting in July
Right.
and skipped the first meeting.
That's right.
That's
Right.
fine.
I just have a question for Mr. DeRubius. With the motion that John read, when do you think this will be posted on our agenda?
Well, I have to seek the town attorney first.
So you're not planning on doing this? You're planning on
I'm
seeking?
planning on speaking to the town attorney.
Okay, the main thing is there that we want to put on the agenda as soon as possible, and we've had enough discussion on this issue,
And I
okay?
don't believe it's in your place to deny the wishes of this board when it comes to the motion and the voting approval of this motion.
And
So
I
we-
disagree with you.
Mr. DeRubius, we really would expect this to be on the agenda without any stonewalling from you or your department. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
Never
John,
mind.
summer schedule?
The first meeting in July and the last meeting in August
Mr.
will be the
Chairman?
schedule for the summer.
So
Mr.
we'll be
Chairman?
the first, we will meet the first Wednesday
Wednesday.
in July and the third Wednesday in August.
Those dates would be July 6th
Okay,
and August 17th.
okay.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion regarding the summer schedule, is that we meet the first Wednesday of July, which is July 6th, and the last meeting date in August, which would be August 17th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Motion to adjourn?
One more
One
item.
more question?
One more item, Mr. Chairman, the adoption of minutes for the April 20th, 2011 Planning Board meeting.
Move that we adopt the minutes of the April 20th, 2011 meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Mr. Chairman,
Motion to adjourn.
did you want to
Oh,
discuss,
you want to have something to say?
did you want to discuss that other issue we were talking about with
Correspondence?
with regard to correspondence and professionals?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did, excuse me.
Right, we have another, we should have another section.
This application there that caused the concern of the board, there's no notice there from Mr. DeSolo's letter and no notice from Mr. Tramarko's letter, except that Mr. Machichi dropped the letter off at me at the thing. We want to change that. In the future, any correspondence by attorneys, engineers, architects, or, what's the last?
Applicants?
What?
Or-
Surveyors.
How about potential applicants?
The what?
Potential applicants?
Well, I don't want the applicant so much there. I want there the attorneys for those.
Okay.
The representative for the applicant to be able there to come before the board and articulate what they want to do or not do, okay? And so we can avoid all of this like it happened. Any other questions by the board?
Well, I thought we were going to have a category for correspondence.
Category for
If
correspondence.
correspondence was addressed to the
Yes.
planning board,
That's right,
that correspondence should show up on the agenda at the next meeting.
yes.
And the correspondence should be in our agenda
Yes.
package.
But the only thing I would say is that, and this is just for consideration, if a person, say, happens to not have an attorney or representative and they still correspond to the board, I think that should be treated the same way.
Well,
If
all
someone
right.
wants to write to us as members of the board, we should get it.
The one we just included as correspondence addressed to the planning
Just have a section
department
for
in
correspondence.
reference to the
It might be
planning board.
none, there might be correspondence none, then there won't be any. But if
Fine.
there is some, it should be there.
I would really like to see professionals before the board.
I mean, I'm not going to, I think it should be open to everybody, but if you want to limit it to professionals, that's fine.
You want to try it with professionals and then see how it goes?
You can
Or
do
do you
that.
want to?
I just think that if someone writes to the planning board on their own, they have an issue to bring to our attention, whoever they are, that we should get notice of the letter, that's all.
Right.
Doesn't mean we have to act on it.
Any
doesn't mean
problem
we
with
have
that
to-
with the rest of the board?
None.
Can't hurt.
It can't hurt, just like the issue we
Okay.
had with the
Because somebody
sidewalk.
may not have the wherewithal to have an attorney, or they may not choose to have an attorney.
Yes.
So if they communicate with the board, it should be treated the same way as if they hired an attorney to communicate with the board. If they communicate with the board by letter, and that letter is sent to the planning department, it should show up in our packet, and it should show up on correspondence.
Okay.
If in a particular meeting, there is no correspondence, then they can write correspondence, none. But if there is correspondence, I think we should have it.
Good.
And this-
Everybody in tune with that?
Question on that, just for clarification?
Yes.
The correspondence section will have correspondence that you've received and reviewed and want to comment on the
No,
record
just new
about?
correspondence that we had, that the planning department has received that was addressed to the planning board.
So even if you're only receiving it that evening, still
instance,
have it in
yeah.
the category
What
of
we don't want is
correspondence
a
on the agenda?
repeat of what happened with the application there of Mr. Tramarko and Mr. Zolo. Both of those letters should have come before the board at least to be considered, okay?
So now we're remedying that by
Having a
making a
category.
motion for correspondence
Right.
on the agenda.
Is there any correspondence? Right, that's it.
I'm not going to put up with this. Gentlemen, you always receive your correspondence. You always do, if we received it. The letter, Mr. Or Adam, that you were referring to at the last meeting, I don't know if you are aware of the fact that Mr. Zolo acknowledged that that letter was never given to my office.
Said it was personally hand-delivered.
Wait. You
No,
know what?
it was not.
What he said.
Mr. Rubius,
He-
let me just jump in here, okay?
Yes.
Regardless of what happened in the past, regardless of whether or not a letter was given to you and never given to us, or it wasn't given to you and given to us, I think rather than argue about all that, the better thing to do is we're going to ask to have a separate correspondence section on the agenda, and then in the future, whenever any letters are given to you or members of your staff that are addressed to us, they should be given to us. I'm not saying that letters were given to you that you didn't give to us. You understand? I'm just saying for the future, this is how I think the board wants it done.
And what I am saying is, you have always received, this board has always received, just like every other board receives, any correspondence with your name on it, you get a copy of it, or you get the original.
So there
It
should be
always
no
has
re-
been that way.
So-
There's no
Well,
correspondence.
I will interrupt for just a minute. The letter that came to me from Mr. Machichi was hand-delivered at my house. The letter that was sent to you by Mr. Tramarko was sent on May the 5th. It was not on this agenda here until the 18th, the meeting of the 18th. That's when we had the letter, the rest of the board had the letter.
And again, we don't have Mr. Tramarko's letter. I have the file right here. It is not in there. There is a claim that he submitted that letter, just like other letters that have been submitted. If I don't deal with correspondence, my secretaries do. If we get something, they put it in the file. If you have something, we normally give it to you.
Right.
I'm not debating that he wrote the letter, but I am debating the fact that we received it.
That's the problem. See, understand? What we maybe have to do is have a certified letter, return receipt, sent to you and to the board, and that way we know the letter is in your hands and in our hands.
Well, some people aren't going to send it certified. They just
I'm talking
buy it,
about the
right?
attorney. The attorney can do that.
I think what we're trying to do is, I think we're all trying to go forward here.
Right.
And, you know, I think that should be our whole process of going forward. I think, Jim, that your particular motion, recommendation motion of a correspondence
Section on the
category
agenda.
be added on, and I think it should be very, very plain that it's just fair to the board to have correspondence given to it. Not that we're saying it hasn't been done in the past,
Right.
we just want to make it clear going forward that we have that particular
Right.
ability to review.
And there may be a lot of times when the section will say none, and whoever makes up the agenda, if there is no correspondence
That's
between the
it.
last meeting and that meeting, we'll put none.
That
But
sounds
if there is
more than
correspondence,
fair.
it should be noted.
That sounds
That's
more
all.
than fair.
That's all.
That
That's all.
sounds more than fair. Fair to
Okay.
everybody. Jim, you want to make a motion, or do we need to make a motion?
I don't think well, you can make a motion if you want. We'll get a second on it and
Well,
an approval.
is planning agree to go along with it?
We have never not done this, is what I'm explaining to you.
Okay.
We have always given you your
Are
correspondence.
you
We will
disagreeing with
continue.
anything we're requesting tonight? Do we need to make a motion, or are you going to agree to do this?
If we have correspondence that has been delivered to my office, and there is a date stamp, and you don't receive it, everything that comes into my office has a date stamp on it, and it's handled by the secretaries, and it is managed by the secretaries. If you don't receive it, then there's an error on our part. But everything is, if you see, everything that comes into my office has my initials on top of it.
Then why don't we just
But what we-
reiterate
but what we
policy,
want,
Jim?
wait, but what we want, and everybody can jump in if they don't agree with me, is a specific line item on the agenda for correspondence from this day forward.
Frank, I think it's just a matter of
And if there is
documenting.
none,
That's-
then have correspondence none. If there is some, it should be
Include it.
noted.
I think it's
That's
just
all
to
we're asking
document
for.
it, that
All right,
that there is
listen.
or there isn't.
Just to get back to your response here about Mr. Tramarko, this is received in your office on May the 9th, 2011. It was not distributed to this board until May the 18th. Now, that's the letter I got from Mr. Tramarko with your stamp on it.
Okay?
All right, so then why don't we just include that correspondence section on the agenda, so there will be no type of situation where we question, we just know now that any type of correspondence that comes in.
That's all.
That's directed towards us, we receive a copy of.
I don't think it's a lot to ask.
No.
It just documents it, that we do have
Is there a
it.
second on that motion?
Second, well,
You made the motion.
I made the
Second on that
motion.
motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
thank you.
Now a motion to adjourn.
Bob.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?